A US administration official has said the attacks on Iran did not include its oil infrastructure or nuclear facilities, targets that President Biden had urged Israel not to hit. The US says it worked with Israel to encourage a targeted and proportional response. So did last night's targeting reflect that White House diplomacy? A question I put to John Bolton, who served in US administrations under Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and later as National Security Advisor to President Donald Trump from 2018 to 2019.
It certainly appears to have been quite limited. No striking of Iran's nuclear weapons program, no striking of oil infrastructure. I attribute that to enormous pressure from the Biden White House and the imminence of the American election. It could be that what the Israelis decided to do was succumb to the White House pressure and leave further measures to some point after the election.
So you think this time Benjamin Netanyahu was listening to Joe Biden, to Antony Blinken?
I think the pressure was enormous, and I think Netanyahu understands American politics quite well, may also have felt that if he bent to the pressure this time, on November the 6th, the day after the election, he is much freer to act. Obviously, the other variable here is whether or not Iran responds to this Israeli attack and to what extent and what that could prompt Israel to do.
So do you think Israel should have gone further?
Yes, absolutely. I think if you look at the Ring of Fire strategy, which the Iranian Revolutionary Guards have formulated over the years, it is in operation against Israel right now. The price that Iran has paid directly is insignificant. Its proxies have been hurt. Its power in the region, therefore, has been hurt. But Iran has gotten away with this aggression without itself paying a real price. And I think that does not constitute adequate deterrence against the threat to Israel, to the Gulf Arab states, and through proliferation to the whole world from Iran's nuclear program.
And should Israel risk going after Iran's nuclear program very directly?
Well, the other risk is to get attacked with nuclear weapons someday.
And in terms of the upcoming American election, how much difference will it make who actually wins in terms of what happens in the Middle East next?
I think it's very hard to tell. I think Kamala Harris is almost a blank slate on national security issues generally. My guess would be, at least for her first year in office, she would look a lot like Biden and his policies. Trump obviously blusters about a lot of things, but I don't think there's any guarantee that he would be reflexively pro-Israel. There's a saying in Texas that applies to Trump: he's all hat and no cattle.
At some stage in the Middle East, peace will need to be negotiated. What form can you see that taking?
I don't see why it has to be negotiated. In World War II, the U.S. objective against Germany and Japan was unconditional surrender for Israel's security and future, and really the security of the Arab states in the region as well. Why not victory?
And if there is a victory for Donald Trump in the upcoming election, what do you think his first actions are going to be on the Middle East?
I think what he does in the Middle East will depend on the circumstances at the time. So that's why the period between the U.S. election on November the 5th and the inauguration of a new president on January the 20th is so important. Depending on the outcome of the election, you've got a lame duck president in Joe Biden in the White House. And I think the possibility for actors all over the world to believe that they can undertake steps during that transition period that they might not otherwise have taken is very real.
Former US National Security Advisor John Bolton.